And we literally couldn't get our sachets printed because the Bulgarian government had taken over this factory and said, you're printing money.
Oh, wow. Hey guys, Alex Fedotoff here. Today we have an amazing guest. We have Martyn Cook. He's an amazing entrepreneur, brand owner. He owns a brand called Newbrew, and today we'll learn about his secrets on how he scaled the brand. It's an 8-figure brand at this point, and very excited to learn his secrets and how he did it. For people who don't know you, right? Like, can you introduce yourself, kind of like what you do, and you'll be better at explaining that than me, probably.
Wow, yeah. I mean, where do I start? So I've been in the online space probably 15 years now. Even before then, like age 14. I was like interested in computers and graphic design, things like that, and I got into it to impress a girl. I thought that was the way you did it. It was terrible. I got really good at graphics design, didn't get a girl. It's a long story. But I've always been interested in like the online space and selling one-to-many or teaching one-to-many, and like and just generally the efficiencies of it. Like you and I can have a conversation here. And if we weren't capturing this, like it'd be a really, really good conversation, but it would only be you and I that hear it. And when if we record it, like, you know, this can go out to millions, right? I'm sure your channel is billions at this point, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I've always been interested in that, and that's led me down the road of like life hacking, biohacking, and just generally any
Why though?
Because what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the kind of same, getting more of an output from the same input. Like what we were talking about off air earlier on about like bulletproof coffee, where you can throw in a couple of additional ingredients that don't taste of anything, and then you get the benefit of those, and you're still just drinking the same coffee. It's no more effort, but you've got more output. And you know, I found the online space.
So even then, like, so it's like so long time ago, you were like you were looking to that to increase your own productivity, basically.
My own productivity, and just generally looking for better ways to do things. And I think one of the worst lines in human history as an explanation for why someone is doing something in a certain way.
It's always been done this way, right?
We've always done it this way. And it's like, that's the worst sentence ever. And I think that's such a clue that should be improved at that point. And so I got into the online space, like many of the sort of my time, my first big successes was selling print-on-demand T-shirts.
Oh, interesting.
I remember going away to Cyprus. It was
Gear Bubble or something.
It was Teespring first. Teespring, T-Chip, Fabrilli.
At that point, the CPA and Facebook was okay to kind of like afford this.
Yeah, you could be terrible like I was back then at Facebook ads and still sell stuff. It was just a picture of a T-shirt, and you could sell. You know, a half decent way. But really, what that taught me was that you don't have to have like a shop where it's open and people are coming in and you're only making money when they're right there in front of you. You can have a thing that's open always online, and you can make money whilst you sleep or whilst you vacation. And that really excited me. And
what was your career before that, or you just graduated?
So no, I launched a like graphics design company where I made like flyers and business cards and things, and I was doing that by day, and I was actually DJing by night. Like, so I think it was like 4 nights a week I was out. And for me, this was, again, it was like getting more out than I put in. For me, I was listening to music I liked because I was playing it. I was in a party every single night. You know, I was having free drinks. I was meeting great people. You know, I was living life, and I was getting paid really well for it. And so I was doing that by night. And then a lot of the nightclubs were my clients for the graphic design business during the day. I was doing video ads and things like that. And that led me into the online space. I started buying up Facebook pages. So this is back in the day before EdgeRank, when like everybody that had liked your page, as long as they were on Facebook, saw what you posted.
Oh, wow. And the organic reach was so strong.
Like 100% organic
Wow,
reach.
That's crazy.
And as a result of that, I found these groups where I could buy these Facebook pages, and I was just buying and buying and buying. I had no real use for them like that I knew, but I knew that if I could speak to a lot of people, that's value. There's value in that. And I got to the point where I had 20 million fans across like 100 Facebook pages, which is more than most TV channels, more than most radio stations. And then I sort of got into the world of like traffic sending, driving traffic, right? I could, from these Facebook pages, I could suggest people go to a certain link, and they would go there, and that could be an affiliate link, that could be a website with like a content website with ads, or whatever. But you could make money from that.
Monetization at that point.
Exactly. And so that kind of led into the online space, making money online. And then I was like, okay, so I've got my own traffic here. what about like traffic on demand? Is there such thing as a traffic tap that you can just turn on? And you know, that was when I got into the paid media.
What were your first like successes?
So I'd say with the like on a real scale, my first 7-figure business was the print on demand t-shirt stuff. I did that across a few different platforms, tons of different niches.
You made some
all
profit?
different Facebook pages. Yeah, absolutely. And then I took that and I took what I knew from there and I created a print on demand leggings company called usestatement.com, and we sold that in 2018. And
Nice.
we were taking the concept of like understanding why people wear certain things on their clothes, but I wanted to create. I wanted to make a really, really good product. I wanted to make like a Lululemon level style
For men or
for women.
For women.
And so this is where, and we were speaking before this interview, weren't we, about how it seems like I often take the harder way, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not deliberately taking the hard way, but like often the right way is harder than the easy wrong way is what I've found. And so for that particular brand, I was like cold calling print houses. So I was in the UK, I was cold calling all of these different printers that already printed on t-shirts and was trying to convince them, hey, would you tweak your machines a little bit to be able to print on leggings?
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I probably had 20 no's. I was going through, I'd skip page 1 of Google. I'd go to like page 2 where no one goes.
Yeah.
And then I'd be calling up all these people, like getting them on the phone, because if you email them, they don't respond and so on. And I eventually found this amazing print house called Ink Threadable, who are based in Manchester.
Ink
Threadable. And they're a print on demand brand run by Alex and Amy. And they were brilliant. And they were like, okay, we're willing to take a punt on this. They were small at the same time. I was like, great, that's one part of the puzzle. And the second part of the puzzle was finding these amazing leggings. And I went through so many different manufacturers.
Like you mean designed by that?
Like blank leggings, like plain black leggings.
Oh, just kind of like on which you can print.
Yes, that have a high enough cotton content that they can be printed on. And we eventually found this amazing supplier of those, and then it was like, bam, now we've got these 2 suppliers. It's really hard. Like everybody was doing print on demand t-shirts at this point. It was so easy for people to rip your designs and stuff.
I see.
But by taking the harder way, people couldn't rip off the quality of our leggings and our designs. That business, we launched it in the September, and by the November we'd done our first $1 million. It was like 90 days. We broke all our systems, all of our suppliers. You know, everybody was really
backlog of orders.
Everything was on fire. But
what are the margins on that? How much you were buying, how much you were selling for?
From memory, I think we were selling them for about $40, and maybe the margins, I think it was about $8 finished, $8 finished.
And then shipping?
And then shipping, that was included. From memory, I think it was, depending on whether it was UK
so like
or
4x?
Something like I think it wasn't that great. I think our COGS was probably worked out about a third, which I don't think is a good enough. I think the percentage of like when you're figuring out what to sell your product for, I think your price point needs to be at least 5 times.
5 times.
At least
I say people like 3x, you know, that's even more like, so what you're saying is that, and I mean, in the industry where you're at, like supplement industry, that's the margins that are possible, you know, to achieve.
I think back then, you know, and this was, so that was my I think that was my second like 7-figure plus business, and back then it was a little bit easier to advertise and so on, and so we did well with like kind of 3x there. But I think nowadays, in order to have enough money to be able to pay enough to acquire a customer, I think you need to figure out how you can make a brilliant high quality product where the COGS are like, you know, at least 20% or less than what you're selling for. I really do.
Basically, being a more like a premium segment, whatever market you take, there's a mass market, something cheap, right? There's something that people can buy like in the retail stores, like, and there's like there's kind of like be more on the premium side, so you can be like
kind of, but also like for us again, talking about the hard way rather than the easy way. Like for us, we were like, okay, well, how can we create a product almost? You're right. How can we make a product almost from scratch? And if we're making the product from scratch, we can make a really highly valuable product, but by cutting out all of the middlemen, all of the brokers, all of the people that are touching it and adding their margin, and we can get to the point where actually it's much less to purchase and manufacture your product, but the value has not changed. It's still a valuable product. Whereas I think sometimes people go, okay, well, I'm going to cheap out.
Yeah.
Make it cheaper by like doing a cheaper thing, cutting corners, things like that. And I don't think that's a good idea. Like, so we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but like with Newbrew, all of our products are eco-friendly. They're wrapped in paper-based packaging, right?
I know you gave me, you gave me,
and that was an amazing example of a win-win-win situation, which I'm always looking for, because
is it a recycled paper?
Because so they can recycle. It's eco-friendly, but it's also lightweight, and it's probably as cheap, if not cheaper, than wrapping it in plastic. It's harder. Less people want to do it. Less manufacturers want to do it, and are set up to do it. But like,
can you give me example? Can you give me example like of how much would regular package cost versus how much this costs? Like, is there like substantial difference?
I mean, I'm not sure, and it really depends on what you're wrapping. But what we knew before we even launched is, like we had a number of principles before launching, and like we were at that event when we were talking yesterday. You know, for Newbrew. And jumping ahead, Newbrew is the fourth company that is 7 figures and beyond that have launched. And there's a software business in between the U statement here and this. There was 2 years of planning that went into Newbrew. I had a floor-to-ceiling whiteboard. Where every day I was just writing up like what I wanted it to be, what I didn't want it to be.
Was it your like the product of your like imagination and kind of like what you had in mind, or you also had some other partners or people you collaborated with to bounce some ideas from?
Yeah, so all of the above. So it started as just a whiteboard of like, what is this thing that I'm going to build that's going to produce real good in the world. It's going to not only change and enrich the lives of our customers, but it's going to enrich and change the lives of people that could never afford our products. Now, for our case, we're with every single product sold, we fortify the meals of at least one malnourished child for at least a year.
What is fortifying?
So fortifying means adding essential nutrients, vitamins and minerals into the basic food that these malnourished people are consuming on a daily basis. So there's things that we take for granted. If you go to a supermarket, you buy some cereal or some flour, if you look on the packet, it'll be fortified with iodine, B vitamins, things like that, right? That means that, like, say you got diarrhea, you would just take a pill. It'd be annoying, but at the end of the day, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you haven't got that sort of baseline nutrition, diarrhea can be life-threatening. Right?
Wow.
And many other things can be life-threatening. And so one of the things on this whiteboard was, what is the big mission? What is the big thing that is way bigger than what we're building that we can take on?
Way bigger than just your personal goals, right? Like we talked about this like yesterday. It's like, obviously you get in business to make money, but it's like, what is beyond the money? What is bigger that? Because and when you're bringing people on board, and we'll get into team building as well, I think one of the very important things, like, I know I had this like skewed mindset. I'm like, oh, but I'm paying this guy very well. Like, why he's not like excited? Why he's not, going above and beyond? So people don't work for money, right? People work. I mean, money is obviously it has to be kind of like market or above the market, whatever that is, like to make the person happy on that side. But it's also what you said is about the vision of the company. And you can see all of these successful companies, they're like, even like Tesla, Apple, they're like building amazing products. Yeah, you go there because, you know what I mean? You get access to the talent and everything, but you congregate the talent by just having this like vision. We're building like these amazing products with changing lives, reinforcing that, to your team. And that's a big part of.
Yeah, exactly. So what I found, this is loosely based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So there's loads of stuff on the internet that everyone can go out and check out. But basically, what I found is that like the first chunk of money you make, so your first 50 grand, your first 100 grand, whatever, that is game changing. That puts food on the table. That puts a shelter over your head. That is life changing. The next bit of money that you make on top of that, so say this is per month or per year or whatever, right? The next bit of money you make is like, it's kind of cool. You can get the shiny toys, you can get the whatever, but it hasn't really had as much of an impact on your life. The next bit of money, even less so. Next bit of money, even less so. And it gets to the point where, like, if you've lined everything up that you're doing and you're putting all your energy into this business and your goal, your North Star that you're aiming for is money, you're going to be miserable. You're destined to be miserable because it has this effect where it doesn't really...
The law of diminishing returns.
And so what you need to do is you need to align yourself with something different to that, right? And so often that will be higher purpose, giving back, philanthropy, legacy, things like that. And so for us with Newbrew, I wanted, in addition to making a product which was, and this was one of the rules that we had written up, like a product that was so good that people would come to my house to buy it if they had to. Right? How can you make a product so good that changes the lives of our customers and the people that can afford it? But at the same time, how can we make like a big difference to a big problem in the world? And then in the meantime, how can we make sure that we're not leaving a footprint on the earth by being successful in it? And so that was why plastic was a non-negotiable. We can't create more single-use plastic as part of our product. It's a non-negotiable. That's a footprint on the planet. We knew that we could make a great product. It's not going to be easy, but we knew we could do that bit. But then the challenge on the bigger problem was like that was something that really took some thinking. And I started doing some research online. I was looking at there's websites that like rank charities because a charity can be really good at getting money. But like actually a lot of that money goes to their internal team.
Yeah,
you know,
administrative
exactly.
expenses.
And so that's not necessarily a great charity. And then you can have a great charity that's just not a really big problem. It's not a really big problem that they're trying to tackle. And so we wanted to find a charity that made a difference. And we landed on Project Healthy Children, which is now called Sanku. And I interviewed the founder, Felix Church, like on my podcast. I really wanted to get to know, and I really wanted to be like if we're going to be giving large amounts of money to you, I want to make sure that you're legit. I want to make sure that you're passionate. That this is your thing, and it ticks all the boxes for me. And then what I advise to everybody through my podcast and through my book and through conversations is you can set up your business in such a way that you can make it, you can get to a point where it's units of good. So, so for us, it's number of meals fortified, right? That's our unit of good. And you can go on our socials and you can see that like right now, I think it's just ticked over 120 million meals fortified for malnourished children. That's how many we've done so far. Our target is 1 billion by 2025. But like say you were passionate more about removing plastic from the ocean, right? You could do grams of plastic, kilograms of plastic, right? Number of bottles, whatever you like. And there's your unit of good. And you can tie that to your revenue, right? But you're not being like public necessarily about your revenue. You can tie it to your revenue because you know how many kilograms of plastic or whatever you can remove for every dollar or every $10, $100. Right? And then you can talk in terms of kilograms of plastic, your unit of good, with your team internally, with your customers externally, on your socials, and everybody gets it. Everyone gets behind that mission. If you've said, right, I want to remove like 100 metric tons of plastic by the end of next year or something.
And then when you're hiring someone, you're sharing it with them, right? And you see like whether they're excited about it or not. Because if someone is not excited about that, they're like I just want like 9 to 5, whatever, then,
But your 18 players, right? They've already got enough money. If they're really good at what they've done, they've probably already got enough money, and they're already battling with this legacy, with this greater good, this giving back part. And so when you hit them with this, and you can say you can be a part of this company, and like here's all the testimonials, these long form. We've got these long form essay testimonials from our customers who absolutely love what we're doing. We have changed their lives. We can say here's this, and that's kind of cool, that's kind of cute. But in addition to this is what we're doing in a bigger way. There's 8 billion people on this earth, and 2 billion of them are malnourished. 2 billion, a quarter. And so we're like, right, that's a big problem. And that's exciting because for me, I'm an entrepreneur. Every single day, I'm getting opportunities. Every single day, there's big shiny objects coming into my inbox. People going, "Hey, let's do this. Let's do this." And I knew that a big part of this thing that I was launching needed to keep my attention. Right? It needed to keep my attention. It needed to be something that could keep me excited and hungry for the whole journey. Right? And for me, it was going to be a minimum of 5 years. Like it needed to be exciting. It needed to be challenging, and so all of this stuff was going on the whiteboard. All of this, over many weeks, it began to take shape, like what this was going to be, and why it should be and why it should exist.
Tell me about the first 6 months of this business. How was it?
So, the first 6 months. So,
you have amazing vision, right? You have amazing idea,
and now you've got to execute it.
Yes.
And for us, we're a supplement company, which is like the most competitive space. It's the most regulated space. It is the most abused space over the last 20 years. We're like abused by marketers selling like terrible things for high prices on auto subscription and stuff. Yeah, we weren't going into it thinking this is going to be easy. We were definitely going into it thinking hard. And what we didn't expect, so the 2 years of planning started around 2018, and this is when I was selling one of my other businesses, the one I mentioned earlier on. I still have my software development business, and my first son was born. And so it's not like every day I was in front of this whiteboard. It was just like a process. I was like, I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah.
I just want to do this right. Okay. We ended up launching in January of 2020, which
right before COVID,
right before lockdowns, right? So what we didn't expect, I'll give you one example. What we didn't expect, so our sachets that our product comes into is it's a paper sachet which has foil on the inside, so paper and foil. It's really, really specialist. You need to work with specialist manufacturers that are able to print on this kind of thing, right? Now, there's another well-known thing that is a combination of paper and metal, and that's money. And our factory was in Bulgaria, and we literally couldn't get our sachets printed because the Bulgarian government had taken over this factory and said, you're printing money.
Oh, wow.
And that was something we didn't expect, right? Like, that was on no SWOT analysis. That was on no whatever, right? So our first product, Newbrew Advantage, still our best-selling product, is like to make it easy to understand. We talk about it almost like it's like a multivitamin for your brain, right? It's so much stronger there, and the reality is different people want different things from their brain. They might want focus, they might want creativity, memory, recall. There's lots of things that your brain does, and the reason, and what is most important to different kinds of people will be different. Like a pro athlete, it might be like reaction time and like hand-eye coordination. A student might be recalling information for the exam, right? It's completely different. And so we wanted to create something that like covered all bases and tick the box and didn't have the what comes up must come down kind of effect that a lot of other things out there. You drink a Red Bull, for example, which is not a nootropic, but like you go up, you jitter, and then you come down, right? And so that was our first product, and we always knew what that was going to be, but like we were molded by our environment. Our second product was a nootropic that was also a very highly potent immunity supporting thing. Because of the nature, we were like, wow, we're in this pandemic where people are worried about flus and viruses and things like this. Like, it's our responsibility to build something that can help with this. And unfortunately, we were unable to fulfill the order because of this issue with the factory. Wow. We had a German hospital reach out to us and say, like, hey, we'd like to buy thousands and thousands of units of your immunity thing, which at this point we'd only like talked about in terms of pre-sale. We had to turn it down. And so, in terms of the early challenges, going back to your question, I mean,
timing was fascinating.
Timing was terrible in terms of the pandemic. That was a big one for us. But there were good things, and I remember having a conversation with Roland Fraser about this. I asked him, the pandemic. Actually, I got him into our mastermind. It was like, hey man, like talk to us about like what's going on. Is the pandemic? Is it good? Is it bad? Like whatever. And he was like, I could talk about either. I could tell you about how I've had to lay off tons of staff and how it's doom and gloom and whatever. But then on the flip side, I can tell you about all of these opportunities that have come from it. And it really does depend on what lens you're looking through. And so on the flip side, as an early business, we were able to get a bunch of talented people that work in like London agencies who are now working from home and have less work and whatever. And so they're like turning to Upwork to like get a bit more money and stuff because they're working from home. We were able to get exceptionally talented people to work for us for, pennies on the dollar. Remotely. So there was opportunities. There was also challenges, and I get off on challenges. I mean, it's the hard way, and sure, and I prefer there wasn't challenges. But often I'm looking at it as like, wow, if I can overcome this challenge, that makes it even harder for a competitor.
Barrier to entry is higher,
right?
Yeah.
The barrier to entry is higher, right? Because other people won't go to that level. Nothing good, in my experience in life, nothing good comes easy. Nothing that's worth having, from my wife, from my kids, from the success in the business, to my health, to whatever. None of it has come easy, right? And it's a good idea to remind yourself of those things that you have achieved, not take them for granted, be grateful for those. Because chances are they didn't come easy, right? And if they did come easy, you might not even value them as well.
So. That's awesome, man. So you're now like at 8-figure level with the company. So what were the major challenges for you to go from 0 to like 7 figures, and then from 7 to 8? Because probably they were different. Like what were the major challenges and how you overcame them?
So the first part was, so on the way to 7 figures, the challenge was more around, it was around product market fit.
Yeah.
It was about figuring out how our product sits in the world. And things get really easy, by the way. Once you get past that point where you've got this critical mass of customers that you can speak to, you've got the testimonials, you've got the press publications, you've got the authority, you've got the trust.
The world give you the approval, right? Like there is a place for you.
It's much easier to market once you get to that point. But getting up to that point, you're like, I've got this product. I think it's good. My friends and family tell me it's good, but I don't know if I can trust them. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's getting that validation, and it's figuring out, like, who is it that I need to reach and really speak to sell this. And I've had this conversation before where I've said, like, our market is technically anybody with a brain that wants to use it. And you think, oh, wow, it's amazing. What such scale. But our problem is also, it's anybody with a brain. And as I said earlier on, some people use their brain for this. Yeah. Some people use their brain for that. And how I would speak to you if you're like, you're trying to recover from like, some traumatic brain experience, and therefore you want to build up the health of your brain and talk about the benefits of Newbrew in relation to that, and the science that backs up that it would support you on that, is very different to how I might speak to Randy Couture, for example. Randy Couture, who's one of our brand ambassadors, and we work with. He won the UFC 6 times. He's now in all the Expendable movies. When I speak to him, his most important thing right now in his life is he's doing a lot of commentary on UFC, and he's having to do these 8-hour commentating sessions where he's having to remember these really long, complicated Russian names, these long form things, and he wants to pronounce them correctly. He doesn't want to sound like an idiot. He wants to sound interesting. And so he consumes our product to stay locked in a zone, so that these names and faces and interesting anecdotes come to him freely, right? So it's completely different. So our blessing is that it's massively scalable, but our curse is that, it's completely different. And so in the early days, getting up to that 7-figure level, it was about figuring out who is it that we're selling to, what is it that is important to them, what components of our product marry up with the pain points of that, and figuring that out. And in the early days, we went through a few different agencies, because that's like, it's a great way to get like, expanded marketing teams, for pennies on the dollar kind of thing, rather than having them all in-house, to figure it out. And we went through some bad ones that kind of almost missold our product for us. They were saying, it's going to give you wings, it's going to make you whatever. And the end result was customers were like, I don't feel it, it's not working, because they thought it was going to make them fly.
The expectation was like set incorrectly.
And we went through others. But we did eventually figure out, like for us, we started with focusing on Facebook ads. Facebook is a place whereby you're interrupting people. They're not there to look for your stuff. They're there for cat videos. They're there for the photos of their friends' nights out and things like this. Take them, and in our case, it's often with stories. Take them, on a journey, which ultimately leads to them forming their own aha moment, where they're like, "Wow, this could really help my life." And when we figured that out, then it's much easier from that point, right? You figured out that the way to profitably sell to cold customers, and then as you're doing that, you've got customers that have bought from you before coming back, and so now the required ROAS you need from those cold ads becomes less and less and less as the chunk of money that's coming from existing customers improves. And that's what I mean. It gets much easier. It snowballs in a positive way. So that was like the early part, like product market fit. And then laterally, like when you grow really, really quick, what we found most challenging was actually staying in stock. Believe it or not, like and I, like most people, I guess, in this industry, thought, well, it's just a marketing problem. Figure out the marketing, and then to the sunset. And
not if you have like custom formulations, right? Not if there is like a timeline, as you explained, kind of like there's a timeline for sourcing the ingredient, there's timeline for mixing them. Sometimes, some of these, ingredients like need to be in a certain environment for some time.
Absolutely. We took the hard path. You can buy custom formulated white label stuff and just slap your logo on it, and away you go. but because we wanted to make a real brand, we've got a medical doctor on our team, we wanted to make something that genuinely worked. The ingredients are in the high doses that is the same dose as the studies that we're quoting, the studies into those ingredients that show the benefits.
Wow.
Many companies out there, I'm not going to name them on this podcast, of course, but there's many companies out there whereby they say, oh, we've got this ingredient, and they're quoting the studies. But when you actually look at the studies, the dosage levels in the studies are like this, and what they've got in their ingredient is this.
You're cutting costs?
And so, for whatever reason, they're doing it. But what
Wow.
that shows is you can't say that in a study where you use 300 milligrams of, say, ashwagandha or something, and it relieved anxiety in the peer-reviewed double-blind study. If this company's now got 30 milligrams of ashwagandha, you can't say that, you can't use that study, but many companies do. And so, yeah, we wanted to make a product that's great, and it didn't exist. There were no suppliers there. So we're like, well, let's figure this out. Starts with a blank sheet of paper. Let's figure this out. Let's figure out how to make it. But of course, now, like with the lead times, which aren't crazy, they really aren't crazy. It's not crazy compared to the people who are like, getting stuff from China on the back of a freight, freight ship and stuff by boat. But doing things right does take time. And so, when we're like forecasting, we're being quite aggressive with our forecasting, like this is how much stock we need based on the growth that we anticipate. But we just kept outselling that. We just kept outselling this aggressive like growth. And so, yeah, for us, what was a real sort of surprise was that it was no longer like the marketing and cold acquisition. It was keeping in stock for that. But our customers understand our mission, and they are sympathetic. They're good customers. They understand our mission. They understand we're a force for good. They understand we're trying to do things right. They understand that our kind of product doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, right? And so if they have to wait a little bit longer, 9 times out of 10, they're okay with that. Like we're not sending them heart medication, right, or something essential. I mean, they have grown to absolutely love it, and it's become a part of their life. But they understand that sometimes things happen, and because of the charitable thing, I think there's a big factor that really does highlight that we're trying to do things for good, and it does. One of the benefits of that you do get in return for giving out all this money to charity is like a little bit more sympathy, a little bit more understanding from your customers, slightly higher conversion rates, because a lot of customers want to be a part of your mission as well and love the fact that they can purchase something, and then malnourished people are benefiting as well. And that is just one of the sort of many reasons, frankly, to have this units of good and this bigger mission and goal in your business. But yeah, for us, going right back to your question, because I love to go off on a tangent.
Yeah, it's the same here.
Going right back to your question, that was the challenging thing we found for that next level of scale.
So getting let's say, like marketing costs, because supplement, as you mentioned, very competitive niche, right? So getting the marketing costs, and we'll get into that as well, the conversion rate, the AOV, to actually make sense on paid traffic where you are profitable, or at least you're break even, you're acquiring customers. Was that a challenge for you?
Yeah, it was a challenge that I enjoyed. So, and I actually had a consulting call recently with someone who, in their business, they had a great product, a really, really fantastic product I loved. But they were struggling with cold traffic, and they'd been around long enough that they had like quite a decent amount of existing customers coming in, but they were struggling on cold traffic, and they were struggling where to focus on. And so a few years ago, I wrote a book called 1% Secret, where I broke down how to look at your funnel, how to look at your business. And I demonstrated how, say you've got your ads, and a certain number of people click on the ads, and there's a number of people land on your product page, a certain number of those get to the checkout page, a certain number of those buy at a certain level, a certain number of those come back. I demonstrated how by improving I think it was 3 or 4 of those steps by just 1%. So fixating just on the ads. How can I get 1% more people to click on it? Looking at the conversion, how can I get 1% more people? By improving just 3 or 4 areas by just 1%, the end result is a 400% increase in revenue. 400%, right? And so what you need to do, and this is what I advise to everyone, to make it really simple, is you get your numbers. Like what is the click-through rate of your ads? What is the CPC? What is the, how many people are making it to your product page? How many of those people are converting? At what AOV are they converting at, right? So start with that.
What percentage of customers actually come back and buy from you again?
And then you can add that in there, right? And you have your actual numbers, which should then point to the actual ROAS, the actual ROI, the actual whatever that you're getting right now. Now, in that same spreadsheet, copy that down, right? And then start playing with the numbers. What if I change this to this number? How does that affect the end thing? What if I change this? And then where your focus should be is on the weak link in here. Right? Like our industry has it kind of has standards, right?
Yeah, benchmarks.
Yeah. Right? And so at a glance, you should be able to see if something's significantly under the benchmark. But if not, you can play with those numbers. You can see which one of those numbers has the biggest effect and start there. And what I say is focus, and this is how my book's written. It's literally like there's 50 chapters, and each chapter, the idea is that like there's 50 weeks in a year, right? Each chapter you can like focus on that area of your business for a week, and you can go tunnel vision, right? Gun to your head, if you had a week to improve your conversion rate, to get just one more person out of 100 to buy your product, and that's all you were focused on, that was the only thing in your attention, of course you'd solve that.
Yeah,
right? Of course you'd figure that out. But a lot of business owners, they struggle to go, which one should I do first? And so going through this exercise, you can see, all right, if I can improve my conversion rate, say it's at 2% right now, which is fine, particularly if your AOV is good. But if you could get, so that's 2 people out of 100 people that are buying. What if I can make that 3 people?
How we can convince one more person out of those 100 to buy the product, right? And that might be for different, reasons they're not buying, right? Besides the alternative of people buying, they're not buying. They decided like they interested enough to get on the website, actually check the product. The ads get them in, but it's for some reason, something like there's not enough maybe explanation or objection handling or like a social proof or whatever reasons they might not be buying.
And so, okay, cool. So if it's a conversion rate problem because the numbers have told you that, now you can just obsess about conversion rates, right? You can hit up the most talented people in the industry. You can hit up the books, the resources, the YouTube videos. You can read like Robert Cialdini's Persuasion and Persuasion, right? Like you can geek out about psychology and the psychology of converting.
You can go and reverse engineer some successful funnels websites.
And if that's all you're focused on, and your goal is just to get one more person out of 100, come on. But that's a 50% increase. That means 50% more people are buying.
It's the same ad
going from the same advert. If you go from 2% to 3%, that's 50% more conversions. And then this is the real golden bit, right? That means that that's 50% more people that are going into your post-purchase sequence, right? That's 50% more people that are going on your customer list that could then buy again. That's 50% more people that will leave you a testimonial. That's 50% more people that will tell your friends or become an ambassador or whatever, like shout you out on their socials. It creates this positive snowball effect. And so, and then once you've got your conversion rate, in this case, to where you want it to be, maybe you could improve your AOV next. Maybe you could improve your click-through rate on your ad next. But if you follow like the gurus, you speak to most gurus, and this is sort of a little bit tragic in our industry. What I've seen, it seems like everyone's saying it's an ad problem. It's an ad problem. It's an ad problem. Improve your ads. Improve your ads. Our ads are great. They're great. They're fine, but we don't touch them all that often, right? Because the ads it's one section of the funnel. But you could improve your ROAS by improving your advertorial click-through rate, by improving your conversion rate, by improving your AOV. You can improve your ROAS by reducing your product costs so that you have more money to spend on acquisition, right? You have more money to spend on acquisition, which means you're getting more sales, which means Facebook is optimizing better, your pixels hotter, and so your ads perform better. And so there's so many things you can do over here, which is not ads, that will improve your ROAS and improve the performance of your business. And so, that's what I talk about. So, that's why founders work best for me. It's resonated with the people I was talking about. It's resonated with them. They're like, oh,
definitely. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Kind of the major like leverage points, if you just concentrate on those and just make it very like focused effort to break down your funnel, like to break down like why people buy your product, why people don't buy, asking your customers, asking people, even look at the comments on Facebook. We look at comments on Facebook all the time. People have their concerns and objections they're saying, and reflecting those into better like copy on the product pages, on advertorials. So for the advertorials specific, I know you're heavy on advertorial. So what have been your kind of like major frameworks for the advertorials, where you get like inspiration ideas for those? How many of those you test, like a month or a year? Yes. How do you approach that?
So I want to go sort of just lay a bit of foundation here. So advertorials work really well for us as a type of pre-sale page for our Facebook traffic. So the Facebook traffic, where we know over the last couple of years, Facebook's got a little bit worse at finding the right people and whatever, and us as marketers have often blended sales and marketing like it's one thing. But the reality is that the sales is actually happening on the product page. The marketing is the finding the right person with the right message, right? But we've always just automated the sales bit with our product page because we've included our trust seals and our guarantees and our testimonials and whatever, right? Now, what we realized was that actually, as Facebook gets a little bit worse at the sort of targeting side, we can include this thing called like an advertorial, whereby we can warm up and begin to sell to our customers. And it actually means that if the person landing on the advertorial is slightly less targeted, slightly less, perfect, that's okay, right? The advertorial does a good job. And by opening up the bucket, we can.
I like the way you look at it.
But an advertorial is just
so pretty much in kind of like in simpler, even like in simpler, even like different definition, it's like you can use advertorials to convert even colder traffic than you're not very warm, like people that are aware about the benefits of the product, maybe aware of your brand even, or kind of like the particular type of product that you're selling.
Absolutely.
But you can convert colder traffic using advertorials.
And so we don't do advertorials as much from, say, like Google traffic, particularly search traffic, because those people are already pretty hot. They're already searching for the solution, right? Whereas on Facebook, they're not there. As I said earlier on, they're not there to buy your product. And so it's important to know when to use an advertorial. The other thing for like things like advertorials, it might be that you're selling a product that's very visual and very easy to sell visually. And the example I'd use is, say, like a mosquito catcher, right?
Yeah.
You can say, this is what it looks like. This is how heavy it is. Here is it zapping mosquitoes. You can use it in camping. You can use it at home. You can use it at this. Like, visually, you can sell this really well. You probably don't need an advertorial because you can give most people all the information they want from the ad, and really they're just going to land on the product page, and all they care about is how much is this going to cost me.
Yeah.
Right? And your product page, there's a list of questions your product page should answer, like, how heavy is it? Does it ship to me? What happens if something goes wrong?
Yeah.
How much does it cost, and so on, right? So an advertorial is really good when your product doesn't like visually sell itself. Like, we can hold up our sachets of our product and it's like, okay, here's what it looks like. It's this color, it tastes like this, or whatever. But that doesn't really begin to describe the benefits very well. And so if you've got a product like that, the best way
So people don't clearly see the value just for looking at the packaging. So you have to do more of the education and explanation what the product actually can do for you in order to sell it.
You need to try and speak their language, and you need to help that your target customer see the improvement that they will have in their own lives as a result of bringing your product into it, right? And so stories are the best way I've found to do that. And there's a bunch of different pre-sales, right? People like the 5 reason why.
Yeah.
I would call those like listicles. It's a type of pre-sale. It's not an advertorial, right? And VSLs is like the video version of advertorials, and it's been evolved. It's probably better. I'd love to get into it more. We don't do it yet. But advertorials is a great way to tell a story, an interesting story about, and the hero of your story is a similar kind of person to who you're targeting with your ads, and you're telling this story of how the hero, had this pain in the past, this bad problematic time, how hard it was for them, and how they then discovered the solution, and then how that solution's changed their lives, and then why, and then like at this point people realize they're being sold to, and now they've got a degree of skepticism, and then it's about like reassurances. So it's about testimonials. It's about like where it's been seen, like press stuff. It's about the guarantee. It's about these things, and all of this is done and should be done in a completely ethical, truthful, honest way, right? And I must iterate that because none of this is scammy. the stories that we tell come from long form interviews we've done with our customers. We will invite our customers that are leaving us, interesting long form testimonials. We'll invite them into a Zoom call with me, typically, directly with me. Like, it's a pain in the ass, right? It's a hard work, right? So 40 minutes of my time, right? Each time of this. But when on that call, I can delve into their story. I can delve in and I can understand what it was, and then we can then make them the hero of this story of the advertorial. And it resonates because these people typically are like all the other people, right? There's thousands more just with the same story as Jane. Why Jane found Newbrew Advantage and how it helped Jane with the brain fog that she had as a result of whatever her lifestyle in some way. It's also on these interviews, you need to get into the why behind the why behind the why, right? So why do you want to lose weight? Oh, because I'm fat. Okay, so why is that a problem? Oh, because I'm sort of slow moving and don't feel good about myself. Okay, why is that a problem? Well, my husband doesn't really want to have sex with me anymore. And I'm sort of sweating and I feel really guilty all day, but don't know what to do about it. Okay, we're getting close to it, right? Okay, and why is that a problem? Well, I've got kids and I'm worried that I'm not going to be around as long, to look after them, and I want to keep up with them when they're playing, and and I'm worried that my husband's going to cheat on me, and oh wow, now we're getting into some real stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
You're not going to get that in a testimonial. But if you start speaking about that pain in the story, that is relatable.
Wow, this is so good. Customer interview. How often do you do those?
So we tend to iterate our advertorials to the point where we're happy. So going back to those kind of industry standards, if you like, we're happy if an advertorial has a click-through rate above 40%. I think
from the first page to the do you usually have the second page or checkout page?
So the journey in this case would be an ad, and say 100 people from that ad land on the advertorial. We would want at least 40 of those 100 people to click one of our call to action buttons in the advertorial that takes them to the product page. So we'd call that an advertorial click-through rate is the metric that I don't know if that's what everyone calls it, that's what we call it. And we want that to be above 40%. At that point, at volume, right, real traffic, 10,000, 15,000 visitors, and it's performing like that, right? You find different traffic types. It might go up to north of 60%. It might be low or high 30s or something, depending on the traffic type. But that seems to be a sweet spot. Then we're cool with that, right? We're not now trying to iterate that so much. If that's performing at 40%, we know that with the other numbers in our funnel, that we're in profitable territory, and then we can work on, say, the AOV or the conversion rate of the product page, things like that. And so that's where our attention would turn to, because if we now make that product page very, very aligned with the pain points and the angles and stuff from the story, and really, really aligned with the ad where we're calling out the customer and the challenges that they might have. If we make that alignment throughout the whole funnel really, really consistent, we know that's going to work really well. And our advertorial, this is the thing, here's a disclaimer with the advertorial. If your advertorial is a big page which just has a big red button that says continue, you're going to get a really high click-through rate, right? But the advertorial hasn't done anything. Our first call to action is typically 2 or 3 scrolls down.
Oh, wow.
Right? So they've already consumed a good chunk of the page before they've clicked something.
Such a good point. So for sure, the goal is not just to have a high click-through rate on the first advertorial, because that could be a lot of curiosity clicks. Oh, how much it costs? How much it costs? I want to know how much it costs, right? You put it lower on the page so that that just in order for a person to be there, they have to check at least some of that content or all of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so you then know, and you can do a split test, you can do an A/B test with your ads straight to product page, your ads to your product page via an advertorial, and you can do a metric cost per product page visitor to see the 2 paths. But that for every person that's got to your product page via your advertorial, they're warmer and they're going to convert higher than the person that's gone straight to it. The other thing, and this is really interesting when we discovered this, is that because of the lower bounce rate of the advertorial and the higher engagement, Facebook can see that. Right? A lot of people are browsing that in the Facebook browser on the app on their phone, and Facebook rewards that because in the utopia of Facebook world, they want every ad to be just as engaging and valuable as the cat videos around it. Right. And so what you find is that the visitors to the Advertorial actually often cost less, like your ad costs less, which, you know, even though you're losing, say, 60% of them, which are probably we're never going to buy anyway, but even though you're losing 60% of them, the cost of getting the 100 people to your Advertorial is significantly lower than the 100 you would have got to your product page.
Such a good point. And also like just the thought process, right? So if you drive people directly to the product page, you know, regular product pages, the way they look, there's a product images, there's product description, maybe a few benefits, and there's the price, right?
And you're being sold to, and everyone knows when they've landed on that page, there is a company here asking for my money.
Yeah.
It's the sales process is revealed.
And you haven't like gotten like enough explanation. Why should I even bother? Like why it's like someone wants like $50 from me.
Whoa, you want to get married already?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So advertorials make like so much sense.
But you know, Advertorial is just a story that helps you know, tell like a journey of one of your customers, and you can do that in video, you can do that in text, you can do that in the ad itself. Like you know, it doesn't matter really what mechanism you use. It's just a way of warming them up and helping the customer have that aha light bulb moment where they see themselves as a customer of your product, and they can see how your product helps their unique situation, not what we think it is, what theirs actually is.
You're using something special, custom checkout, right? Tell me more about that. So Martyn is using like this custom software solution he developed. Tell me why you got to develop that solution in the first place. What you didn't like, let's say Shopify, you know, there's obviously Shopify Plus that allows customizations on checkout. So what was the reasoning behind that? And also kind of like how it works, and who's it for?
Sure. So let me take you back to my whiteboard. Right. So on the whiteboard, I knew that, you know, we wanted to offer subscription. I knew that upsells and getting the AOV as high as possible so that our cost per acquisition can be as high as possible and we can outspend our competitors is vitally important. And by that point, I'd already, you know, processed millions and millions of dollars through the Shopify checkout, which, you know, is fine and good and great. At that time, it didn't have really any upsell capabilities. And really the only solutions were like, I don't know, sort of, I call them duct tape solutions, you know, any solution which kind of involves a Zapier is like something where I'm like, oh, that feels like a duct tape solution, you know, where you have to like sort of wire it in and connect it together. And I just was like, look, if I'm building this from scratch anyway, let's build it right. Let's like, whatever. And I know this isn't the situation that everybody found them in, you know, at this point, like now and at that point then, I had a software development company, right? My business partner there, Victor, is an incredibly smart guy. He teaches like AI and machine learning at the University of Budapest. He is a genius developer, and as a result, the developers in our team are super smart, led by Victor, right? And we've had the great privilege of selling, you know, successful softwares. We sold Trust Ads, Trust Message, and Trust Reach publicly. Right, which was the third multi-seven-figure business, right, in the journey there, and so we knew a thing or two about developing software that works. And so back on the whiteboard, I was like, right, well, we need kind of some kind of solution, which, you know, maybe this kind of customer. Remember, we're selling to, you know, maybe college students at this age, and then, you know, like 70, 80-year-olds. Athletes, professionals, whatever, like all different walks of life. I was wanting to test the assumption, like, are you telling me that the same checkout template, so the same layout of the template works, that will be the best solution for all of them? Are you telling me that if someone's on mobile, that same solution's the best? Are you telling me if someone's on iPad or whatever, or wants to pay in this certain way, that's the best solution? And then I also had a frustration that like the payment processing options that you have, not only, as I said, like my industry has been abused for 20 years, and so like payment processors don't really like supplement companies, but also, you know, it's really expensive. I didn't like the idea of giving away 3% of all my revenue, you know, in card processing fees and so on. we wanted to do subscription. We wanted that to be a part of it. We didn't want it to be like a third-party app or third-party service. We wanted to be able to run analytics so that we can see, and I don't see or know of many people doing this, we wanted to know the conversion rates of our funnels for new customers versus existing customers.
Oh, wow.
I mean, a lot of people, they'll be like, our conversion rate's 5%. You're like, great. But it turns out they might have just run a sale or something with their email list. And of course that's going to bump up the conversion rate.
Such a good point.
So it's not really accurate if you're trying to assess the performance of your funnel. And so there was a lot of features and a lot of things that we really needed in our business in order to make this successful. We wanted to run completely headless as well. So this isn't like a Shopify thing. This is like, we wanted to be able to go add to Advertorial, to product page, to checkout. And none of that is Shopify. None of that.
Wow.
It's all fast, it's faster loading, it's more flexible, it's more customizable. And so all of these things on the whiteboard kind of pointed to, we need to build our own solution, right? And so that's what we did. It's called Ethic. It doesn't have anything online. We built it in such a way that Newbrew is a customer of Ethic, and Ethic has other customers. And people will message me, and we'll assess whether it's a good fit for their company.
Who is this for?
I mean,
8 figures, 7 figures.
Typically, it's going to be mid. You're going to be doing $500K a month minimum, I would say, right?
5 million and above.
It would then kind of pay for itself just in the savings that you would get, because you can work with payment processors that aren't available on Shopify, right? The kind of payment processors where you can get sub 1% fees, things like that, right? It'd pay for itself just there. But then when you add in the upsells and being able to heavily customize the upsell sequence and page and see the stats are there, being able to split test different checkout layouts to different sections of customers.
There's a split testing capability?
All of this stuff.
Oh, nice.
Adding in preloaders before the checkout. So from the product page, adding in a preloader before the checkout. There's loads of different kind of things that may work and may not work, right? That's the point. But you've got these options that you can test to see if for your particular funnel, that improves performance or not, right? And that it's not a one size fits all. Like what the gurus are telling you isn't necessarily the way forward for you. That might not be right for you. And so we were just very aware of that. We're now we've also built into like it's multi-currency, it's fast loading and all this stuff, right? So if you're selling in the US, you can keep that as dollars. If you're selling in euros, you can keep that as euros and so on, and not get like hit by exchange rate fees and all of that stuff. But you also now, more than that, since we've owning the checkout process, we have a lot more information, which means that we can now, from an attribution point of view, we can start like mapping out the whole route that the customer's taken. We can see what checkout template they've had. We can see what devices they're on. We can break it down by like, what is the performance of our checkout according to, time of day, the device they're on, what
you have such powerful analytics,
their time zone is, and all of this stuff.
Wow.
Which, yes, Facebook and Google and stuff all kind of have these things, but they're all like broken, and they're all trying to over attribute, and they're all trying to, it's tricky. And so we wanted, this independent view on the analytics, because going back to the spreadsheet where we're mapping out what our numbers are and identifying which numbers we need to improve, that's only as good as your numbers. And as I said, like your conversion rate that you pump in there may be completely off, because if you're seeing a blended conversion rate, which is new customers and existing, your conversion rate is going to be higher, right? And now that's not the true story of your cold acquisition funnel. Like, what is your conversion rate for cold customers?
That's such a good point, because also, it allows you to like really dial in on like, what do you have to like back to this thing that we talked about, like identifying that major like leverage point in the business and then focusing like fully on it. Like, so let's say if you have like cold traffic, you would have to identify the objection that specifically cold traffic has, right, and address those, because those won't be the same as for warm, customers, right? And by mixing those, as you mentioned, it kind of like skews your numbers. It's kind of like might give you the, kind of impression that, website conversion, everything like 5%, but it could be like 10% on warm traffic on your repeat customers, or 20%, whatever, and like 2% on cold. So then there might be so much more upside to improving that page for cold traffic specifically, but you might not even know. It's kind of like, you might have some disease, but you don't even know it, right? It's like from the diagnosis perspective. So that's phenomenal. We'll attach, Martyn, we'll include your Instagram or some way to connect with you. What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, I'd say Instagram or LinkedIn are both great ways to connect with me.
Yeah.
I love, I love chatting with entrepreneurs. I love opportunities to help. I prefer like mediums like this where it's one to many. If you want to email me, you can email me martyn@smarterdestiny.com. And I'm happy to send a PDF copy of my book, the book I mentioned earlier on. It's a 300-page monster forward, Kevin Harrington and so on. I already give it away online just for the cost of postage. But if you want a digital copy, you can just email me and I'll get
Well, that's that. So if you're doing like 5-10 million plus and something you want to look into, the custom checkout solution that Martyn has, he's not actively selling. He did ask me to pitch it. I'm just like, if anyone is interested, guys, you can check it out, connect with Martyn, see if that's a good fit. One last thing, that has been like phenomenal. So many insights, man. How do you manage? Like, you have 2 kiddos.
Kidditos.
How do you manage family time, business, fitness, like health, like all of those things? Kind of like how you keep them all of them moving at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a question that every day I'm trying to sort of improve my answer to. Sometimes I look at things, so like as entrepreneurs, like we've all got busy lives and we've got lots of things. And the analogy I often use is like lots of spinning plates. Obviously I didn't come up with that. The analogy I use is that these spinning plates, they're made out of different materials. Some of those spinning plates, they might be made out of rubber. If they fall, they'll kind of bounce and they'll be fine. Some of them are made of wood and they'll chip and they'll get damaged, but they'll still work as a plate. Some of them are made out of glass. And when they fall, they're shattered, they're done. And so you've got to identify in your lives, like, what are the glass plates? What are the wooden plates? What are the rubber plates? Because if your life is that full, plates are going to fall. Plates are going to fall. Things are going to fail. But if you've identified which are the plates that you're willing to let fall and which are the non-negotiables, that's a good starting point. I would say in terms of the sort of managing the work-life balance, it's really tricky, right? It is really tricky. And, with 2 kids, obviously I want to take them under my wing and I want to, give them the benefits of my experience. And, but then at the same time, I need to be away from them to provide for them. And it's a kind of odd thing. So, really for me, it's the brilliance of my wife. Like she's fantastic. Obviously she doesn't need to work, even though she's a fantastic counselor and she does, counseling, as well. She doesn't need to work, which means that I've got, in my opinion, the best person ever, like looking after my kids and nurturing my kids, who's incentivized to do so. And we kind of, like, the way we work, which isn't necessarily the right way, is we have this split where like mine is like 80% providing and 20% family, and hers is 80% family and I don't know, 20% me. I don't know what the other 20% is because she's not necessarily providing, right? And what's really important is to, when you're with the family, you're with the family. You're not with the business. And
that means like turning off your phone, like just.
It means for me, I'd like throw my phone. I typically it's like a thing I do where I will like frisbee my phone into my bedroom onto the bed, right? Like and I'm really like fast, like that kind of. It's important rather than placing it down.
You're okay. It's kind of like it has like kind of a symbolic meaning.
Symbolic, yeah. But sometimes it's easier said than done. And probably everybody's heard the advice. Just switch off. But and then that's hard.
And then your kids see that and like. Dad, can I repeat that? And then you use your phone.
But that's easier said than done. And actually what I've realized is that sometimes I need to do my little checking thing, right? Like we have like dashboards and stuff we've created that, go red if things are off and whatever. And I need to check in with my COO. I need to check in with my team or whatever so that I can switch off. And so sometimes before switching off, I need this kind of like transition period from like work to family, whereby I'm not only changing the way I'm thinking and trying to like get more into the moment rather than in the future, which is where I am most of the time in my role as, I'm the role as like visionary, head of growth. Like, I'm trying to future, and then come into the present. So not only am I transitioning in that time on a good day, right, when I'm getting this right, and I'm not saying I'm getting this right, often enough, I'm trying to, one, bring myself into the present from this future tense, but I'm also, two, wanting to make sure that all of the things that could be on my mind, I hope this isn't, going wrong, or I hope this was this done, and whatever. I'm trying to make sure that all of those loose ends are kind of tied up.
I see.
So that I can switch off my brain from that part of the business.
Such a good point. Almost like a checklist. Okay, I have to make sure that this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. Now I can relax for like a few hours, like be with my family, fully present.
And, it comes with plenty of arguments, plenty of, there's plenty of iterations, where, I'll have a check-in with my wife, and it's really important to have these regular check-ins. It's like a date night or a sit-down conversation or whatever, but it's, you have the check-ins and you see, like, is the balance right? Like, how do we both feel this last week or these last few days have gone? Has the balance? Have I been present enough for the family? Has she felt listened to? And you sort of make tweaks. And I've got entrepreneur friends that they take that one step further, where they have these different pillars, and they give themselves a score, right? Like this week, what's my health score out of 10? What's my relationship score out of 10, which my wife would give me? What's my, business score?
Man,
what's my whatever
So
score?
good. This is so good.
I do that annually. I do that at the beginning of the year, and then I have like check-ins, like sort of quarterly about, these different departments of my life, how I feel they're doing. But I don't do it weekly, like some of my entrepreneur friends do. But I can see how beneficial that would be.
I like the feedback loops, right? Like when maybe there's like a time, I don't know, let's say like once a week or so, where you're like with your partner, and obviously, women and men, they sometimes see things differently, right? And they have kind of a different mentality, just like from the evolutionary like standpoint. Like men always want to provide, like conquer, like, what's new, like looking for like, so as you said.
Do you know something else there? Sorry to interrupt. Like men are always looking for the solution, and women hate it. Thing when you just give them the solution, because women don't necessarily want the solution.
They want to be listened to.
They want to be listened to. They want to be heard. They want to just discuss the thing. And men, we're like, well, what's the point in a conversation with no solution? And women are like, stop giving me the solution. I want to bat it around. I think that's from the book Mars and Venus.
Oh yeah, that's such a good book.
And just remembering that you're different to your wife. You're different to the person over there. You're different to the person over there. Everyone like sees it through their own lens, and sometimes that feedback loop that you said, like your wife giving you a score out of 10. This is so good for like an alpha, like performing entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
If your wife gives you a 6 out of 10 for how you've been in a relationship this last week, you're like, I need to nail it, crush this next week, right? It's a really good process.
Very nice, man. I love it. I mean, so many insights. I know you're a busy man. You have, things to do. So we will wrap up. But guys, connect with this guy, follow this guy. Like, I mean, just the level of thinking you have is extremely like mature, and like high level. And I love, the observing like how you grow the business, and also other areas like, that you mentioned, like family. It's amazing. So learn from this guy. He's also a very well connected guy. So Martyn, my man, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Wish you the massive success with your company, like not just in terms of the revenue, profit, business, but also like just impacting those lives that you're impacting on a day-to-day basis with your product. Guys, check out the product called Noobru, and get yourself some. Martyn gave me the samples. I like it. I have it here actually. So yeah, kind of like plugging in. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
I'll see you in the next video.